Hello, everyone. This is Nick Geo, and let me just keep it on the video screen. So, right here, that's our old home phone, and you can see the cord. uh, this house is like 33 years old, and then let's see, back here is where I usually am in the basement because I'm in the basement right now. And yeah, you can kind of see the ping pong table. I just thought maybe try a different place, try to switch things up once in a while. Well, try to just go to a bunch of different places now, just so you can get more of a tour. I was thinking of just doing a whole tour of the house, but I don't want to brag or whatever. And then behind me, that's one of my sister's old mattresses because my mom sleeps in her bedroom because my dad snores a lot, so they don't sleep together. And that sister, she's the oldest sister. She's the one in med school. So let's go on to the topic today. And I already talked a little bit about this topic during the personal video and maybe a little bit this week, but just, yeah, I was talking about getting out of the Arsenal and Northwestern football watching businesses because I went to Northwestern, but the football team's just horrible this year compared to the last three or four. And then Arsenal, I've been a fan of them since end of college, so it's been 4 or 5 years, but they just haven't done much. So this is the video about when following sports can be a dumb thing or just not a worthwhile thing because and you'll see there it's a little bit related to the stuff that I've been talking about during the last week or so in my videos. So but I see this phenomenon happen a lot with my friends. They get really into their college football teams or their college basketball teams. Maybe it's the Bulls because we live in Illinois. Maybe it's getting really into the Cubs or a soccer team. And with the Cubs, well, I'll get to them. And they go through these emotional cycles of highs and lows. Let's assume that the highs feel as good in the positive direction as the lows feel in the negative direction. I'm not really sure on the science, but fundamental question I have is why would you want to put so much of your emotional well-being into something you can't control? And again, this goes back to the stuff about Andrew Kirby, his whole talk about the dichotomy of control. And actually, I went to the library today. I had today off from work. I just didn't pick up a job because I took an atmosphere slash climate slash physics midterm that I'm taking out of BYU as a post-bac class just so I can get eventually certified in physics. And so I had time to go to the library a little bit before. So I got a Stoicism book because that's the big philosophy that Andrew teaches about. Um, but he says that Stoics believe in the dichotomy of control. There are some things that we have control over and some things that we do not have control over. The things that we do not have control over, we should not be affected by them emotionally. I mean, we can experience emotions, but then realize after that, okay, I'm feeling this way, but I can't control it, so I just gotta let it go. Um, and things that he talks about for the things outside of our control are other people's thoughts, actions, feelings about us, the weather, the traffic. He says the future also because he was making it in terms of what we have complete control over versus what we have not complete control over. So the future, we might only affect a little bit of it. The bad events that happen to us, just those random things that aren't good, kind of like my grandmother passing away. Her funeral is on Thursday, so we'll see if I make a video then. And going back to the whole sports analogy, with sports teams, you have no control over them. The control is within those players and the coach on that team, and over a year, the owners and the general manager and stuff like that when it comes to acquiring players or trading them away, stuff like that, or drafting. So why are you so invested in something that is just taking you for this ride? And yes, it feels amazing when your team does well, but that doesn't happen often. There's only one Super Bowl winner out of 32 NFL teams, one winner in college football national championship, and one winner in basketball for college football or basketball for college, I should say. Um, One World Series winner out of 30 Major League Baseball teams. Um, Sometimes you're still happy if the team did well and maybe they got into the playoffs when they weren't expecting to, or they just did a lot better than maybe they were at the near the bottom last year, stuff like that. But overall, a problem that my friends have is that a lot of them have really high expectations for their teams since their teams have been good in the past. And like I said in the happiness equation video, if you have high expectations, then you need the reality to be just as high or higher. And it's hard to do that because you can't control what the reality is. So I'm just going to go through some of the teams that my friends are fans of. So Kansas basketball, they've been usually pretty good, pretty solid. And they won maybe like 10 years ago. FC Barcelona soccer, they usually do well. Notre Dame football, they're usually top 10. Cubs, that's another one that a lot of us are fans of. And I'm a little bit of a fan of the Cubs. I think when I was a kid, a lot more. And um, yeah, we might tend to cheer for teams that usually do well so that we're shielded from losses and failure. But with the good teams, when failure happens, well, first of all, there are more chances, opportunities for it to fail. Because say you're the Cubs, well, you need to be winning 55 or 60% of your games. Usually, like at least 56 or 57% of your games. With Barcelona, you have to win first place out of 20 every year, plus maybe another trophy somewhere else in some other tournament. With Notre Dame football, with my friend, because I was talking to him after they lost to Georgia, and college football is kind of it's tough because if you get one loss, then you might be out of the top four playoff consideration. So they lost to Georgia, so he kind of just got really sad. Cubs is a funny one because we made the playoffs 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018. We didn't make the playoffs this year, and also we lost a lot of tight games. We would either like win games, like blow teams out, or our closer that we got during the trade deadline. We got him, and he's supposed to be good, but he just hasn't been good last year, this year, and he blew a lot of saves. So a lot of one-run losses that we had. So even though our run differential over the year was high, like maybe 110, 120 runs, like positive over zero in the 162 games, we were basically a 500 team, 50% winning, and we didn't make the playoffs. Um, yeah, but when failure happens, my friends some might turn to alcohol, or at least with the Notre Dame friend, he just leaves the group me for usually about a day or so, or they stuff like that. And then not to mention that they have a bias maybe towards betting on their teams, which makes them double hurt. And in general, just betting, when you lose bets, not only do you feel emotionally sad that your team lost, but also you start losing money. And look, I watch the tennis matches and I watch NFL. I'm not completely immune. With tennis, I just watch it with no expectations. I just hope for a good match. I don't really pick favorites of who I want to win. There's only like maybe a couple of players on either side, male and female. With NFL, I watch it because I'm in fantasy football leagues, 3 of them, when I do have some control over my players a little bit, but Basically, what's happening is my hometown group is the fantasy football league I care most about because that's been going on for 12, like maybe 13 or 14 years. And that's where we put the most money. We put $100 each into that, whereas my two college leagues, it's like 25 and 25 into it. So there's a lot more at stake. And even though I do have control in terms of who I drafted at the beginning of the season, who I pick up on waivers, we do like a silent auction type of thing for waivers a couple times a week. What happened yesterday and a little bit today, because I have a player going today, but I already know that I'm going to lose and I'm going to be 1-3. Yeah, being 1-3, like even though the Bears won yesterday, which I watched their whole game and they looked really good, they won 16-6 against a decent divisional team. I couldn't even be happy for them because I kept thinking, oh, my fantasy football team's just not good. And that's even with the other two leagues, the two college leagues. I'm probably going to win both of them. I mean, I for sure won one of them, and then I'm probably going to win the other one tonight. Um, so yeah, it's tough. And let's see, a problem my friends face is that they put so much time into a season. Also, there's a lot of time to it. Like even if your team's not doing well, you'll still keep watching it. And I mean, some people have valid reasons because, let's say, my roommate, he does a podcast for a German soccer team. So they were bad last year, but he's always been a big soccer fan and he needs to watch them for the podcast. Um, but yeah, you put a lot of time, and I think about like baseball. Baseball is 162 games. So let's say it's you watch the whole season just to maybe get crushed at the end, like your team doesn't make the playoffs when they thought everyone thought they were going to be. That's 162. Let's say maybe about 3 hours per game. It's usually a little bit more, but let's just keep the math. So that's around 480 hours of watching them. So that's 480 divided by 24 hours a day. That's 20 days of watching them within a 6 month period. Um, Yeah, so it can be a lot of wasted time. And I've also talked about via Andrew Kirby that time is very precious. But what does everyone here think? I know it's a little bit of a more controversial opinion that I have, and not a lot of people my age have it because, at least in my group me of the 10 of us guys, most everyone else enjoys watching sports, and they give the counter arguments of, well, life wouldn't be too exciting without sports, and it's the highs of it make up for the lows, stuff like that. And then one thing I added to this because I made this like probably like a week ago, but what happened Thursday night was this one guy on the Philadelphia Eagles. They were playing against the Packers Thursday night football. He had this horrific injury that it seemed like he might have been paralyzed. So, and that then we had a whole discussion on GroupMe about how do we feel about supporting a sport and getting a lot of entertainment out of sport where people are hurting each other really badly. It's a very violent sport. People also get CTE, and then that causes them to sometimes commit suicide when they're retired, and just a lot of concussions. Which in college I learned that if you get concussions, it's more likely that you get some sort of Parkinson's or Alzheimer's. I mean, we saw that also with Muhammad Ali. But how can we support something? And people were saying, even though they're really big sports lovers, they were saying that it's a little bit of a dilemma. And one of the friends said, "Well, you can play fantasy without really getting too involved into the game." So that's just what I'm going to say about all that. I'm going to switch back to my video. There I am. So what does everyone think? Is it something that you get really involved with? Are you okay with that? Do you ever feel pain, or has there ever been a time where you felt really good about your teams? And yeah, I'm wearing my older sweatshirt from the school that I subbed at the last 2 years. My usual one, that silver with the stripes. I got accidentally got some food on it, so it's just in the hamper until Friday. So I will be back tomorrow, and it'll be a bit of a surprise tomorrow for the video. So I'll see you all tomorrow. All right.